Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves. How's it going, all you Minties? This is Tuesday. That means it's time to take an advanced look at all of the collected editions coming out from Marvel Comics this week. So let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. Before going any further, a big thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us advanced copies of these books. All these books are due out in the direct market and book market on January 14th or 15th, depending on where you get your books. Wow, it's been a long time since it's only been, well, actually there's 3 trades, but we did an overview of this one last week. It seems like there was a delay, but if you want to go and check that out, check out last week's Marvel Overviews recap. But yes, it's been a while since we've had just a couple of books. Could be some delays, and then of course there are Omnis coming out this week too, so that is something that I've already done an overview of. But we have 2 books. We have a brand new Marvel Masterworks and a brand new line of Epic collections that has me really excited. Which one of the 2 will be my pick of the week? Ooh, that's tough. There's some wonderful art in Ka-Zar. This brings back memories. All right, before I go any further, hit that like button. We do put timestamps in the description of the video so you can jump around and just check out the book. Normally I do this. It's like, okay, yeah, timestamps. It's only 2 books. You know what? No timestamps this week. Let's just check out these books. Look at this beautiful Marvel Masterwork and this wonderful new Epic collection. Let's check out the spines of the books together. There we go. Marvel Masterworks, Ka-Zar Volume 4, and Marvel Epic Collection Blade, Nightstalkers. So this is Volume 2, meaning that Volume 1 will have a lot of the older stories from Tomb of Dracula, but this has a lot of the 90s stuff, 91 to 93. Then, of course, the back of the Ka-Zar book. And we're going to be looking at Blade first, but before I do, let's go ahead and check out the Marvel Masterworks. Here we go. Lord of the Hidden Jungle. And your flaps over here, Marvel Masterworks, Welcome to the House of Ideas, and then other Marvel Masterworks books over here. And then, of course, this faux leather look to it with that silver foil right there, Marvel Ka-Zar 4, and then the back of the book. And then it is sewn binding, but we'll look at the binding here in a little bit. All right, as I promised, we are going to take a look at Blade first. So let's go ahead and crack this epic open and talk about the stories found in here and check out this artwork. All right, so let's go ahead and get this book open. We saw the back, we saw the spine. Here we have Blade, Nightstalkers, Volume 2, 1991 to 1993, and what it collects. So collected in here is Tomb of Dracula, the 1991 series 1 through 4, Nightstalkers 1 through 6, Ghost Rider 31, and the material from Midnight Suns Unlimited number 1. 432 pages, $44.99. Marv Wolfman, D.G. Chichester, and Howard Mackey. Pencilers, The Return of the Legendary Gene Colan. Ron Garney, Andy Kubert, and Cynthia Martin. Your inkers like Al Williamson, who inks the legendary Gene Colan for the reunion over here with the Tomb of Dracula. Tom Palmer, Joe Kubert. I forgot about Joe inking his son's pencils in that issue of Ghost Rider. And then, of course, Tom Palmer, Gregory Wright, some of the letterers over here, Chris Alepolis and John Costanza, and then editors at the time. So we do kick it off with the Tomb of Dracula, Day of Blood, Night of Redemption. This is a 4-issue miniseries, and this was heralded as the return of Marv Wolfman and Gene Colan to this character that they made so popular years ago. This is an interesting take because it is set in the Epic. I'm sure you saw that on the cover there was the Epic logo. Keep in mind that is the Marvel Epic comics, not the Epic trade paperbacks. So they did have different ratings back then. As a matter of fact, this one's a little more violent. So T+. Okay, well, yeah. Yes, there's a little bit more gore in this one, hence the T+. This is the story that is set after the demise of Dracula in the pages of Tomb of Dracula. So everything you read afterwards in Marvel Comics at the end of Tomb of Dracula, that is the only thing that is really canon, according to, of course, Marv Wolfman. Because everything else gets ignored, like the 616 stuff, like the stuff with Doctor Strange. So Dracula was dealt with years ago, and our heroes that dealt with him are kind of scattered about. And one of them, I'm not going to go into huge spoilers, but one of them has become an alcoholic. We are going to mainly talk about the protagonist here, and that is Frank Drake. How him and his wife are trying to have a normal life, but they're kind of failing at being normal. Marlene, for example, is in therapy with this Russian doctor, and Frank is just trying to have this normal life with his wife. But he keeps thinking back about the fights that he had with Dracula. The entire 4-issue miniseries is all about how this new antagonist is trying to resurrect Dracula, and so they can use Dracula. Again, Gene Colan supplying the artwork through here, with Al Williamson doing the ink. So it looks a little bit different. I don't want to say it looks 90s, but it doesn't look like Gene Colan. Then, of course, the colors are a little bit different than they would be in the 70s. So we have the return of Rachel Van Helsing, and a couple of other surprises through here. And then the big surprise is, of course, the return of Dracula. Now, why is this in the Blade Epic Collection? Well, that's because we have a bit of a reunion with some of these characters that try to take down Dracula. And one of the returning characters is Blade. Both him and Frank and Rachel are given the kind of modernization treatment through here. But it is an interesting take on the resurrection of Dracula and how they would go about it. And I don't know how I feel. I love the artwork, though. Huge fan of Gene Colan, even when Al Williamson is doing the inks through here. But again, there's 4 of them. They're in prestige format, so in the thicker format than the regular Marvel trade paperbacks. And there's some creepy imagery through this very book. Now, officially, the return of Blade in the 90s happens in the pages of the Rise of the Midnight Suns crossover event. So during this event, we had Lilith, who's trying to gather her army of evil, because she is the queen of evil and mother of demons. And there are visions being had by Johnny Blaze and Danny Ketch, the new Ghost Rider. And Lilith is summoning these 3 characters here of Blade, Hannibal King, and Frank Drake to try to stop the characters of Johnny and Danny from helping her to summon these demons. Of course, everybody's being manipulated. So they form together at the call of Doctor Strange. Now, Doctor Strange has his own reasons why he wants the Nightstalkers to form as a team, and all is revealed through the first couple of issues here. But yes, this is the characters of Frank Drake, Hannibal King, and Blade. So these 3 characters that were part of the Tomb of Dracula are now back together again. And they had formed it was like a private investigations, but really dealing with the supernatural threats throughout their time in the Marvel Universe. I think it was just called at one time like Drake, King, and Blade, but then later on it was renamed to the Borderline Investigations. So when you're reading this, that's what they're calling it, the Borderline Investigations. So the character of Blade plays a huge part through all of this. So this is before the movie, so that's another thing to note too. So this is the character of Eric Brooks in here that will play a part of this trinity. Now, you don't have the whole event collected in here, but you do have the last 2 parts, including part 6 here with Ghost Rider. And of course, you know, all these characters coming together like Morbius and some of these characters that had their own ongoing series against the forces of evil, of Lilith's evil. And Andy Kubert is the penciler here, but it is his dad, Joe Kubert, that is just killing it on inks. I loved when he inked his son's stuff, both Adam and Andy. And then Nightstalkers becomes an ongoing series. Ron Garney supplying the artwork for, I think he went on to be there for about a year, if not a little bit longer. There is a cool little nod to the Distinguished Competition. I think it happens in issue number 4. So they're trying to get established. They're trying to deal with all these new goons. Like Hydra has their own villains right here. They're called the Dead on Arrival. So you have characters like what the heck is his name? Rot Rap, Pyre, and of course Baron Strucker pulling the strings rather. And you get to see a little bit of their powers, what they each and every one of these three characters brings to this team. And I love Ron Garney's art during this time. Tom Palmer supplying the inks. And Palmer's no stranger to the dark side of comics. This is the little nod. So yeah, this is the DOA as they're called. So you have like Malpractice and Pyre there. But in memoriam right here, this is the character of Hannibal King visiting a grave. And it is none other than Clark with Kal-El there and Superman. Like, he is pretty much paying respects to the world's greatest hero. I thought that was a cool nod. I had forgotten about that until rereading this. Yeah, so I actually haven't read Nightstalkers in years, outside of maybe the Rise of the Midnight Suns crossover, because I was huge into this when I was a kid. I was big into the whole Ghost Rider and the Midnight Suns and the Nightstalkers, Spirits of Vengeance. So the next story arc is them pitted against none other than Frank Castle, when Frank Castle misunderstands somebody being burned and beaten and brought in here to this hospital. He swears vengeance, so he goes after these three people. And of course there's misunderstandings because they're trying to do some good stuff and he's just, the Punisher. So misunderstandings, superheroes fighting each other. It was great. And then I forgot about that cover from text. Everybody had, or at least the popular characters, like the X-Men and Spider-Man, had their own Unlimited series. The 2099 had their own Unlimited series. Well, so did the Midnight Suns. This is an anthology, and the only thing that is collected in here is D.G. Chichester's and Cynthia Martin's story here about the Nightstalkers. By the way, it is D.G. Chichester that gets to write the stories of the Nightstalkers. He stays on the book, along with Ron Garney, I think, for well over a year. Maybe a little bit over a year. There's Marvel Age articles back here, interviews with the creators, the Rise of the Midnight Suns, and what each of these teams is bringing to the Marvel Universe. It was a great time. It was like Marvel was back to just telling these horror stories from characters that you thought were long forgotten and introducing you to the characters. Now, the colors look a little bit different when you get in here. And I will say, eventually, if I remember correctly, not all these characters make it out to the end. And we actually get to see some newer Nightstalkers later on before the series. I think the series only went on to like issue 18, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, and sorry, in the back you do have the painted covers here by Gene Colan. Previous collections of the trade paperbacks, I used to have that one. That's a cover by Ron Garney. And this is the Nightstalkers poster, which they use for the cover here. And original art by Gene Colan and Al Williamson. Cover art by Gene Colan. Lots of Gene Colan art. And then Nightstalkers, Ghost Rider 31, and other chapters. Rise of the Midnight Suns were all sold in this printed poly bag. So they all came in this printed poly bag. No card, I don't think. Again, the book has 432 pages and retails for $44.99. And I'm just going to go ahead and say it before we get to Ka-Zar. I wanted to wait till the last second. Yeah, this gets my seal of approval. I freaking love the stories in here, the artwork, everything about it. I love Gene Colan. He, if I ever redo my top 20 favorite artists of all time, I mean, even old school, like, I don't want to call this older Gene Colan, a more mature Gene Colan drawing this compared to his 70s stuff is so solid, man. I love it. And then, of course, you get Ron Garney in here, who has that Joe Kubert art style, being a graduate from the Joe Kubert school. And then you have Joe Kubert himself with Andy Kubert. Yeah, this book, yes, seal of approval, of course. Okay, we saw what it looked like underneath the dust jacket. We saw the spine. So here we go with Ka-Zar Volume 4, Lord of the Hidden Jungle. I do believe this is it's a wrap-up to the Ka-Zar series that started in 1974. You have your credits over here like Doug Bench and Steve Gerber, Jerry Conway, and Val Mayrick, who actually does the introduction, Russ Heath, Tony DeZuniga, and Brett Blevins, and then your pencilers like John Buscema, Larry Hama actually doing a couple of pencils, John Byrne, Chris Claremont telling some of the stories, your table of contents, and your introduction by Val Mayrick, who couldn't exactly remember how he got the gig, who invited him to do it, but had always wanted to draw either Conan, which he later on got to do, or Tarzan. And Ka-Zar was a perfect fit. So he got to work together with his buddy Doug Bench. So we do kick it off with the Ka-Zar number 10 here. So it collects Ka-Zar 10 through 20, X-Men, 115 to 116, and then material from Rampaging Hulk number 9 and Marvel Fanfare 56 through 59. This book has 368 pages and retails for $75. So Conan. Dang, I can't believe I did that. Ka-Zar gets summoned to this land, this golden city right here, where he is tricked into fighting a devil god. And it is a two-parter that will later lead into this. I will say it is nice to see some of these artists, like you have Big John Buscema drawing the first issue right here. And all of it taking place in the Savage Land right now. We will get to see other places too. And then we have Russ Heath doing the issue right here with him and Tonga. And this is the story of this young lady right here. This is what is her name? Shihasa? But she kind of becomes the antagonist here. So it's Sisha, that's her name. Shisa and this other guy named Zaurai and all the lizard people. That's what this two-parter story is. And then we get this really interesting story that kind of takes us all the way to the end. So we have, from issue 14 to 20, this is one long story. All of it by, of course, Doug Mensch. You have Larry Hama. Larry Hama, that's right, writer, musician, editor, actor, now artist. It's great. We're introduced to Claw. I mean, the Claw has been a character that has appeared in the past, but he plays the antagonist for a long time. It starts off with Tonga, and then he notices the rest of the people getting this illness in the Savage Land, so he has to go and figure out where it's coming from, and all signs point to London. And in London is where he gets to meet this interesting lady by the name of Tandy Snow, who's a reporter. And Tandy will play a big part in Ka-Zar for the remaining of the series. So yes, Claw is your antagonist, and he's got these unique powers through here. You don't really see him do this often, at least not in the pages of Black Panther or the Avengers or Daredevil when he appears. But he's like summoning creatures with his sound, so it's a lot of fights between Zabu and some of these creatures, one of them looking like a giant tiger. By the way, Val Mayrick getting to ink his own stuff, so solid. So the story here for the final issues are about these group of people. They're from another dimension. They're called the Shinarians. And the Shinarians have teamed up with Claw to take over Earth. So you have characters like Quan and Zaxter and a couple of other characters. Now, when you travel from London to the Savage Land to their world, they mistake the character of Tandy for a prophesized queen. So they kind of kidnap her and brainwash her and try to make her the queen of these people. I think they're Quarlians during this big battle. Oh, we get to meet this character right here. That was one of Val's favorite characters to draw. But she is now known as Tandila, the queen. Now, I will say, in issue number 20, there is a huge cliffhanger. And you can find out what that cliffhanger is, because the next place to go is the Uncanny X-Men 115. So close to that final page from 114. Whew, with that picture of Storm. My goodness. Savage Land Storm and Savage Land Rogue. I don't know which one to choose. What do I have to choose? Anyway, we do have Ka-Zar showing back up, along with some of the characters that had shown up in the previous storylines. So it's not just Ka-Zar or Tandy, if she's still going by Tandy, but other characters too, like Bernard Kloss or Kirk Marston. Some of those characters are kind of getting their a little bit of a send-off, if you will. Now, we do have Zaladan and the character of Garok teaming up here for this. I love this storyline right here. And then this asks the question, this issue right here, like, wait a second, does Colossus maybe have an offspring somewhere out there? And then they tease it a little bit, and what was it, Uncanny X-Men Annual number 12? And then the rest of this collection in here, because Ka-Zar doesn't have an ongoing until later on when it's revamped in the 80s, is, first of all, we got to talk about this. I think this is it Desuniga? I think that draw. Yes. It's this beautiful pieces of art right here. And Anthony Kraft doing the story of Shanna the She-Devil. Steve Gerber and Tony DeZuniga working on this one here. And this is from the Rampaging Hulk magazine. And then we get some Marvel Fanfare stuff. And this is written by Steve Gerber, drawn by Carmine Infantino, but later on, Brett Blevins comes in as the artist. I do like the fact that I think it's in this issue. Yeah, that's obviously Brett Blevins. That it's credited as a novice, I guess. Was it a joke? Interesting why they decided to do that. I'd like to know if you know the stories behind this, because in the intro it's not talked about in there. Because within the next issue we get to see Brett Blevins. So Steve Gerber, Jim Novak doing the lettering here. Gorgeous Shanna the She-Devil artwork, and never been collected before. I mean, I know we're getting a Marvel Fanfare omnibus. I assume they're gonna hope they go through the whole thing. And in the back here, you get the inside back cover for a promotional page. That beautiful piece right here by Tony DeZuniga, Joe Chiodo there, and original art by Russ Heath, Jack Kirby's piece right there, Rich Buckler, and the biographies on all these wonderful people here that put this book together. All right, as far as the binding of this book, here's your end sheets. 368 pages. It is sewn binding, and again, printed in this thick, glossy paper stock. And that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any one of these books that are coming out this week, or this book that's coming out this week, check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the build, and page count of these books. Let me know in the comments down below which ones you are picking up, if you're a fan of the Marvel Masterworks, or you're hoping one day we'll get an omnibus, or if you're getting the Blade Epic Collections. If you have any questions, leave those down below, and I do this every week. So thank you all that have been watching this. Oh my gosh, it's been going on like 6 years that I've been doing the upcoming collected editions from Marvel Comics. So it's been a blast. I try not to miss a week, but then sometimes I get a little bit behind, but then I have like a catch-up video. But yeah, I will continue doing this because I love catching up with comics this way. Any questions, leave them down below. Smash that like button on the way out, and let me know which one you're going to get. That's it, everybody. Stay healthy and safe out there. Much love. These books a little more in-depth and thorough. Of course. Why not?